What's up, guys? Andrew Goldfarb here. I have the great pleasure of being joined by the best-looking man I know, Colin Moриarти.
Thank you very much. Beyond to you, Andrew.
Today we are looking at the first true gameplay trailer for Assassin's Creed 4, and I think there's some interesting stuff hidden here.
Right.
If we want to we'll jump back to right as we start here.
Yeah, if we go back, I mean, so you can hear the narrator as he goes, say 1715. Now this is, and I wrote if you went on IGN. Well, yeah, so he says it right there. So if we just stop real quick, I mean, 1715, Andrew. Two things stuck out to me. Tuscarora War could have been one of the things. I wrote about this a little bit. This is a battle, though, between Indians and European powers in North America. The thing that stuck out to me when I was doing some research, though, is a treasure fleet, a huge treasure fleet of 11 ships leaving Havana, Cuba in 1715 sunk, holding gold and all this. It was lost in a hurricane, and so off the coast of Florida. I bet you that is exactly what the game surrounds.
That sounds right to me.
Yep.
I mean, they do like to focus on historical events, and kind of they always say history is our playground. That's kind of the quote they use a lot. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
And if we just keep on keeping on here,
sure.
We see a guy here as he walks down. When we get a little close up, freeze it here. That's Blackbeard.
Yep.
It's got to be, right?
Edward Thatch, I believe his real name.
Edward
was.
Teach.
Edward Teach.
Actually,
I apologize.
Infamous pirate, actually a privateer turned pirate. And I talked a little bit in my piece on IGN. You can find about Assassin's Creed 4 about the difference between a privateer, which is a state-sponsored pirate, and a pirate, which is just a pirate, I guess. He worked in the Caribbean and actually quite a bit off the coast of the U.S. as well, or what would become the U.S. Died in 1718. His ship was called the Queen Anne's Revenge, and I think we see some of it as we keep going.
Ooh, that's very possible.
Also,
I know he was into theatricality too, right? He did he would put fireworks in his hat to make him smoke and weird stuff like that.
Yeah, and notice of course that these guys, you're going to see a lot of them pistols, wrapped up with pistols.
Yep.
Remember that at that time we're talking about flintlock, single shot, single load pistols. These guys were boarding ships. They had close quarter combat on the ships as they were fighting back and forth with grape shot and cannon fire. These guys didn't have time to reload. They had to be strapped with pistols like that. Very common sight.
Well, and that's what's so funny as you say that, right? Here we kind of get our first glimpse at the in-game naval warfare, as it were. And this was in Assassin's Creed 3, of course. But when we saw this game, when we saw the AC4 reveal, they told us that was kind of dipping your toe in the water, and that here it gets much more complicated. And exactly what you're saying, you can board ships. There are more advanced mechanics of the naval warfare.
Right.
That'll be the focus of this. It's about 60% on land, 40% in the water is what they told us. And
we're seeing a lot of really cool. If you kind of just rewind and let it play again, I mean, we're seeing some of the cool naval tactics that we got a little taste of in Assassin's Creed 3, but. I like it, seeing it here. We see a lot of broadsides, and broadside, of course, are ships lining up next to each other and firing at each other. If a ship was trying to be, more defensive, they would actually stay perpendicular to the ship to try to take as least amount of damage as possible. Whereas opposed, they'd broadside each other, like you're seeing here, if they wanted to do a maximum amount of damage and then board each other's ships. So there's going to be some advanced mechanics, I think, that we didn't obviously see in Assassin's Creed 3, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we should also point out here that you see here, right here, this is the first Assassin's Creed game ever to feature underwater mechanic. There is swimming. You can dive in this game, and that's part of finding that treasure,
right.
Finding things that are interesting. I'm sure there will be some collectibles. Probably not some feathers this time, Colin. But
no.
Something a little
different.
Far
Far Cry 3 thing going on here.
Far
Cry 3 team is working, or some of the guys are working on this game.
A lot of them came over to from UB Montreal to this team. You see here Havana. This is this is the city in the game. This is a major location. They compared it to Venice in Assassin's Creed 2. This is kind of one of the big hubs in the game. And I know you had some stuff about Havana you wanted to say too.
Yeah,
right?
Havana. At this time, Havana was actually one of the biggest and most populated cities in all of the New World. I think only bested maybe by Boston and a few other places. Huge trade, not only in the triangle trade, the infamous triangle trade, but also just general trade in and out of the New World really went through Havana. And of course, notice the cross on the top of the cathedral there. The Spanish did control Havana. The Catholic Church was heavily involved, of course, in trying to teach and educate the indigenous people in the New World rather, and convert them. The church probably will play, like it did in the other Assassin's Creed games, a pretty big part.
I would imagine. Here we have Kingston, which they kind of told us is kind of a more dangerous, hostile place. Probably kind of a hangout for wretched scum and villainy and all that good stuff.
So Kingston, which is in Jamaica, of course, was the biggest city in Jamaica at that time. Only founded a couple decades before the events of 1715. So this is kind of a new city. This is kind of a new place. So like you said, it might be a little more dangerous, a little more unstructured. Of course, pirates were working in and around Jamaica and all over the Caribbean as well. So
you know what I see here, Colin?
What's that?
I see some hay in a cart in the middle of the screen.
Must mean it's a jump into.
Yeah, I'm gonna hide in there from some cops. I bet. here we see kind of an unexplored island. You know, they told us a lot. There are going to be these smuggler coves, these jungles, these forts, these kind of hidden areas that you're accessing as you go through the game. Some Mayan ruins, you know, and this seems to be you know, some element of all.
Yeah,
those
a little
things.
bit of. He says Uncharted here too, which is funny because I think the narrator does look a little bit like Uncharted.
It does look like Uncharted. I totally agree.
And so here we see, you know, if you go back, I mean, we're going to see a lot of these, but what's cool about the Caribbean at this time, you know, when we were playing Assassin's Creed 3, it's all the British, right? A little bit of French involvement, but really the British and the colonists. In the Caribbean in 1715, there are, you know, 4 major powers dealing, you know, the Spanish, the Dutch, the French, and the English, and you're going to see a lot of different kinds of uniforms that we'll point out. I mean, if you see, you know, for instance, you know, you see a white uniform, that's probably going to be French. If you see a red uniform, that's probably going to be British, but it could also be Spanish. A blue uniform might be Spanish. A powder blue, more lighter gray uniform might be the Dutch. So you're going to see a lot. We're going to be fighting a lot of different nations here, as it is. You see here.
See the gray right here, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting seeing just kind of the weapon variety here, too, right? Obviously, you've got, like, your flintlock pistol, like you were saying. You got some swords, got some knives. I mean, it's kind of interesting. One of the big things in this game is that you're going to be able to keep it seamless. They don't want loading screens. They want you to jump off your boat, get to an island, get to a city, keep going. They want to make it flow as smoothly as possible,
right.
Which I think is something a little more unique for the Assassin's Creed franchise. You know, you got some jumping here. Some of the same mechanics we're used to. Obviously, you know, right there, see the hidden blade, you know. And we should mention, of course, if you don't already know, Edward Kenway, who they introduced at the beginning of this trailer, the grandfather of Connor from Assassin's Creed 3, father of Haytham. And you see more of these, you know, kind of the uniforms you're talking about here. One of the interesting things as you go to these places, as you explore each of these islands, you will always come back to your boat, right? So, you know, here you've got the diving bell, which I thought was really cool as you're going deep underwater. And, you know, the boat you're jumping off of is the Jackdaw. That is your ship. That is what you return to and you upgrade and you kind of use as a home base, which I think is really cool. More of this jungle area here. Fighting sharks, I mean, you mentioned Far Cry 3.
Far Cry-like, yes.
Yeah. I mean, this really could not be much more Far Cry. I think it's again, just it seems to be trying something different for the franchise. You see here Blackbeard making his I was about to say tendrils. I guess those are just they're like the wicks of dynamite.
Right, yeah.
And makes the smoke come off of it, makes him look a little more intimidating. He's a scary guy.
Yeah, he is. It's very cool. Very cool looking.
I don't think we know, unless you have some insight. I don't think we know who this is. You know, there are some.
He looks like someone in Assassin's Creed 3. Like it looks like a pretty similar model.
Yeah,
the dude at Bunker Hill. I can't even think of who that was.
It could be.
I mean, it's not the same person. But.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it well, you know, it could be a recycled asset, but I don't know if they'd go that far. But no, I mean, I think it's kind of cool that you know, you see Edward here having his arms crossed. He seems a little more roguish than Connor, which excites me. Like, I want a little more character action, I think, from him. I'd like him to be a little more relatable than I think Connor was.
For
I
sure.
like the powdered wigs here.
Yeah, he's fighting officers here. I mean, there's no, you know, that which is kind of cool. So, you know, not only dealing with it. A little weird how the soldiers in the background, though, are just kind of standing there. None of them seem to be concerned that their dudes are getting massacred. But, hey, the game's not even an alpha.
They're on their
probably.
break, Colin. Leave them alone. Some cool combat shots here. I mean, again, it's like it seems like they're trying something new, which I really do appreciate. It seems like they're keeping the combat, which a lot of people like. You know, I know you have some issues with gameplay, but you know, I think it's pretty consistent. And then you also have some new elements like underwater. This I would assume is some treasure that you're looting.
Yeah,
you know,
could maybe be part of the Spanish treasure that was lost in 1715.
Glowing and highlighted in a way that makes me think it's probably
and so stop here real quick. I mean, this is kind of interesting. Just that we haven't, you know, the pirates are, you know, some of them, if they're privateers, work for a state, but a lot of them are just really in it for themselves. But we don't see much in terms of if you just back up a little bit, in terms of identifying which countries own these ships and stuff. But you do see, you know, British flags that are St. George's crosses, indicating that's an English flag. It just seems like that's not really shown here. A lot of this battling might be pirate on pirate as well, as it were, as opposed to just, you know, obviously they're fighting a lot of officers, a lot of soldiers with very distinct uniforms. But these ship on ship battles looks like a pirate ship to a British ship here.
And like it's very possible. I mean, as I was saying, you see him jumping off the ship here. You know, you can leave, you can go board that ship. You can, if you prefer, like we've been seeing, the close quarters combat on a ship, you can do it. Or like, I mean, as you were saying, you stay with your cannon on the side. Some of the wildlife here. I mean, we've seen stingrays and sharks, see the whale. I think it's really cool that in the same way hunting was you know, a big thing in Assassin's Creed 3. Here they introduced harpooning, much to PETA's chagrin.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool though. I mean, I think it varies it up a little bit.
Roughing up the French here.
Yeah. Much more combat. Oof. Some of those brutal combos. I mean, returning a lot of the stuff that you saw in Assassin's Creed 3. In that game you were hitting someone with the blade from like a musket and then pulling the trigger.
Right.
Here it's kind of a more creative combination of kind of sword play, knife play, gun play. Of course, vantage point here, jumping into the water instead of into some hay. And yeah, I mean that's kind of your first extended look. You see the pirate skull and crossbones there, of course, kind of making its way into the more typical Assassin's Creed A. But yeah, I think it looks really promising. I mean, they're really good at reveals, but we'll see how the game turns out. As you can see, there's some pre-order bonuses going around, some missions, some bonus stuff. But Colin, thank you for spending time with me today.
Thank you for having me.
For everything Assassin's Creed 4, keep it locked to IGN.